Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by telling you something bold. If you won't sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice. That's a truth most people never confront until it's too late. The dreams they carried in their hearts, the vision they once had, the goals they wrote down with fire in their spirit, they're all still there, gathering dust behind a life filled with distractions, comfort, and indecision. Not because they didn't care, not because they weren't capable, but because when it was time to pay the price, they backed off. Every great achievement demands something from you. It demands time. It demands energy. It demands discomfort. It demands the courage to say no to good so you can say yes to great. People often talk about what they want: financial freedom, impact, success, as it helps us, transformation. But very few ever look at what they're willing to give up to get it. Everyone wants the outcome, but few want the process. They want to be great, but not exhausted. They want wealth, but not discipline. They want results, but not the repetition. So they wait. They convince themselves that next week, next month, or next year will be the right time to commit. But the truth is, time doesn't wait for indecision. Every moment spent avoiding the sacrifice is a moment you're allowing your goals to slip further out of reach. It's not life or luck or circumstance that's holding people back. It's their unwillingness to pay the price. Sacrifice is not about suffering. It's about trading something lesser for something greater. It's about understanding that you can't become who you're meant to be and stay who you are at the same time. The old habits, the comfortable routines, the fear-based excuses, they all have to go. You can't carry average into excellence. There's a cost to stepping into purpose, but there's a far greater cost to staying stuck. When people say they're trying, what they often mean is they're dabbling. Real transformation doesn't come through trying. It comes through deciding, through commitment, through choosing your goal over your excuses day after day. The enemy of your breakthrough is always your current comfort zone. It whispers lies to you. You've got time. You're doing okay. Don't risk too much. But those lies are designed to rob you of your future, because what you don't sacrifice today becomes the regret you carry tomorrow. You either let go of your limitations, or your limitations will define your life. You either give up convenience now, or you give up calling later. Nobody said it would be easy. In fact, if it were easy, everyone would have already done it. But you weren't created to live easy. You were created to live intentional, to stretch, to pursue, to become. There are people depending on your breakthrough as it helps us. Your decision to sacrifice now doesn't just change your life, it ripples into the lives of those connected to your obedience. Your children, your spouse, your community, your future clients or audience, they all benefit when you rise. But none of them get to see that version of you if you keep clinging to comfort. Every time you skip the work, every time you delay the step, every time you choose distraction over discipline, something valuable gets sacrificed in your place. And sometimes what you lose is far greater than what you saved by avoiding the cost. You have to decide what matters more: temporary ease or long-term elevation, because you can't have both. The body you want, the business you envision, the purpose you feel in your gut, they're all waiting on the other side of hard decisions. Hard choices about how you use your time, where you place your focus, and what you're willing to give up to go up. Success doesn't show up because you hope for it. It shows up when you prove you're serious. And seriousness is always measured in sacrifice. What are you willing to let go of? Netflix, comfort, opinions, pride, The difference between those who live the life they imagined and those who just talk about it is not talent. It's sacrifice. It's the decision to say, this matters enough to hurt a little now, so I don't have to hurt a lot later. It's the ability to delay gratification, to work in silence, to build in private, and to endure the tension of becoming. There's no shortcut around it. The path to anything meaningful is paved with choices most people won't make. But if you make them, if you decide to lean in instead of leaning back, your life can look radically different. Not someday, not next year, but now. So the next time you feel resistance, the next time it gets hard, the next time you're tempted to step back instead of step forward, remind yourself, if you won't sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice. That's the trade. That's the price. And only you can decide if the dream is worth it. People often talk about what they want, what they dream of, what they imagine, what they hope might one day become real. They say things like, I want to be financially free, or I want to have a business that changes lives, or I want to become the best version of myself. But wanting is not the problem. The problem is what happens after the wanting. The problem is that most people stop there as it helps us. They treat desire like it's the whole equation, when in reality, it's only the spark. Without fuel, a spark dies out. Without action, a dream decays. And without sacrifice, that dream will cost more than people are willing to pay. What many don't realize is that every goal you want comes with a cost attached to it, and that cost always shows up in the form of decisions you must make daily. You can always measure how serious a person is by looking at what they're willing to walk away from. Because success isn't just built by adding new things. It's built by subtracting the things that don't serve your future. You want focus, you'll have to sacrifice distraction. You want financial freedom, you'll have to sacrifice wasteful spending and undisciplined habits. You want deeper relationships, you'll have to sacrifice selfishness, pride, and emotional laziness. The principle is simple, but most people refuse to confront it. They want the prize without the price. They want breakthrough without obedience. But life doesn't work like that. Growth never comes without cost. The only question I asked you, what are you willing to give up so you can finally step into the life that's waiting for you? There are millions of people who live with silent frustration, not because they lack potential, but because they never move past the convenience of desire into the discomfort of discipline. They say, one day I'll start, or when the timing is right, I'll commit. But that one day never comes because the timing will never feel perfect and the cost will never feel comfortable. What they fail to see is that the longer they wait to make the sacrifice, the more expensive it becomes. Time keeps passing. Opportunities keep moving. And the gap between who they are and who they could be keeps getting wider as it helps. That's not life being unfair. That's life giving you a choice. And every day you delay is a decision in itself. There's a quiet pain that comes from knowing what you were capable of, but never becoming it, as it helps us. It's the kind of pain that doesn't shout but lingers. It creeps into your mind in moments of stillness. It shows up when you see others succeeding and you feel that twinge in your chest, not of jealousy, but of regret. Not because you couldn't do it, but because you didn't pay the price when it mattered most. That pain doesn't just fade away. It follows you into conversations. It shows up in missed chances. It echoes every time you settle for less than what you know you're built for. And over time, it becomes a weight you carry silently, heavy with the question, what if I had just decided to go all in? You don't lose your dream in one moment. You lose it gradually through 1,000 small compromises, skipping the workout just this once, sleeping in instead of building, watching hours of content but never creating, saying next week every time the moment to act arrives. Those tiny decisions may feel harmless in the moment, but they accumulate. They become your pattern. And eventually, that pattern becomes your identity. You start to believe that maybe success isn't for you. Maybe purpose is only for the lucky. Maybe you weren't made for more. But none of that is true. You weren't disqualified. You just didn't sacrifice when the door was open. And now it feels closed, not because it is, but because you stopped walking toward it. There's a hidden power in sacrifice. Most people avoid it because they see it as loss. But in reality, sacrifice is the seed of elevation. It's the willingness to trade what feels good now for what builds greatness later. It's saying no to the old version of you so you can say yes to the version of you that's waiting to be revealed. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, clarity over confusion, as it helps us, action over excuses, you take a step closer to who you were created to be. It's not glamorous, it's not always loud, but it's transformational. And the most powerful part is you're in control of it. You get to decide what you'll keep carrying and what you'll finally let go of. You don't need more inspiration. You need a moment of decision, a moment where you say, enough is enough. A moment where your vision becomes more real to you than your excuses. A moment where you stop rehearsing the reasons why it's hard and start declaring that it's worth it. Because your destiny isn't waiting on someone to give you permission. It's waiting on you to pay the price. And the currency is sacrifice. Every single person who's built something extraordinary has had to walk through that valley. They've had to let go of things they once thought they needed. They've had to endure seasons of uncertainty. They've had to press on when no one was clapping. But they made the trade, and what they received in return couldn't be measured in comfort. It had to be measured in legacy. As us, it's not about being perfect, it's about being committed. And commitment shows up in what you're willing to release. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's habits, sometimes it's mindsets you've held for years. But the letting go is what makes space for the new. You can't receive the next level while clinging to the last one. The door to your future won't open with yesterday's keys. And though sacrifice may feel like loss in the beginning, it becomes freedom in the end. Not freedom from struggle, but freedom from settling. And the more you walk in that truth, as it helps us, the more you realize that everything you've ever wanted isn't waiting on a miracle. It's waiting on a decision. Sacrifice is not about suffering. It's about trading something lesser for something greater. It's a spiritual law, a universal truth that holds power no matter who you are or where you come from. The problem is, most people associate sacrifice with loss, with pain, with giving up something they enjoy. But that's not what true sacrifice is. It's not punishment, it's positioning. It's not deprivation, it's elevation. When you choose to let go of something that's no longer serving you, you're not losing. You're making room. You're clearing space in your life, in your mind, in your heart for what is actually meant for you. And yet, most people cling to the familiar simply because it feels safe. But comfort is not your calling. Familiarity is not your future. We've been conditioned to believe that growth can happen without cost, that success can show up without discipline. We scroll past highlight reels and believe the illusion that people just arrive at greatness. But no one arrives anywhere without sacrifice. Every story of breakthrough is rooted in a moment of letting go, of deciding that where I'm going is more important than what I'm currently attached to. It may be a job that feels secure but drains your soul. It may be a relationship that keeps you stuck. It may be a mindset that whispers, "This is good enough," but you were not designed for good enough. You were designed for overflow, for purpose, for excellence. And stepping into that level will always cost you the things that are holding you down. Sacrifice is about exchange. It's choosing to give up temporary comfort for permanent transformation. And not everyone is willing to do that. That's why so many people stay stuck in cycles, financial cycles, emotional cycles, spiritual cycles. They know they're made for more, but they keep holding on to what's easy, what's known, what doesn't challenge them. And here's the dangerous part. After a while, that cycle becomes their normal. They stop dreaming. They stop stretching. They stop expecting anything greater because their vision has been shaped by what they're unwilling to release. But if you're not willing to disrupt the cycle will define your life. You have to become bold enough to interrupt your patterns with a decision. The reality is, sacrifice is the entry fee to transformation. It's not optional, it's required. You can't build a new identity on old habits. You can't create a new future with the same daily routine that built your present. Every next level of your life will require a next level version of you. That version won't emerge automatically. It will be forged through intentional sacrifice. You'll have to stop showing up for distractions. You'll have to stop defending limitations. You'll have to stop feeding excuses and start feeding purpose. And it won't feel easy in the moment. It will feel like resistance. But that resistance is where strength is born. That resistance is where clarity is found. That resistance is your test. And if you press through it, it becomes your testimony. We don't rise by accident. We rise by choice. And that choice almost always begins with a decision to release. You cannot carry old weight into new seasons. You cannot enter destiny dragging the baggage of indecision. Sacrifice strips away the unnecessary. It sharpens your focus. It refines your character. It awakens parts of you that have been asleep under the weight of comfort. And yes, it can be painful. Yes, it may feel like loss in the beginning, but as you keep moving, you begin to see what's on the other side of that decision. You begin to taste the fruit of obedience, and you realize that nothing you gave up can compare to what you're walking into. When you sacrifice with intention, you begin to operate on a different level. You start to think differently, speak differently, and move differently. You become less attached to temporary pleasures and more focused on long-term purpose. The distractions that used to steal your time no longer hold power over you. The opinions that once dictated your choices begin to lose their grip. You're no longer moved by surface level validation because you're grounded in deeper vision. Sacrifice gives you access to alignment with who you really are, not who you were pretending to be to keep everyone else comfortable. And when you move in alignment, progress becomes inevitable. People will wonder how you changed. They'll ask what shifted. And the truth will be simple. You made the trade. You gave up average to chase after exceptional. You chose to stop waiting for motivation and started living from conviction. You stopped playing it safe and decided to believe that the life you saw in your heart was real enough to fight for. And that belief was proven, not in your words, but in your choices, not in your dreams, but in your discipline. Because that's where sacrifice becomes visible. That's where it starts speaking louder than any excuse. That's where your actions begin to prophesy your future. You won't always see immediate results. Sacrifice doesn't always come with quick rewards. Sometimes it feels like silence. Sometimes it feels like isolation. Sometimes it feels like nothing's happening at all. But something is happening. Every day you stay committed. Every moment you choose purpose over pleasure. Every time you lean into discipline, you're planting seeds. And those seeds don't die in the dark. They grow, they multiply, they take root. And eventually, they bear fruit in a way that leaves no doubt that the sacrifice was not in vain. The enemy of your breakthrough is always your current comfort zone. It hides in plain sight, camouflaged as balance, taking it easy, or being realistic. It sounds harmless. It even feels wise. But the truth is, comfort zones are dream killers dressed in soft clothing. They convince you that where you are is safe. That pushing harder might break you. That striving for more could end in failure or embarrassment. And so you pull back. You downplay your vision. You settle for average and call it stability. But deep down, you know the true thing. You're not content. You're just comfortable. And there's a vast difference between the two. There is a cost to staying where you are. Most people think the cost is only on the other side of growth. The time, the effort, the sacrifice. But what they fail to realize is that staying stuck has a cost too. It may not feel as intense at first, but it's much expensive over time. The longer you stay in a comfort zone, the more it begins to shrink your identity. You start thinking smaller. You start making decisions based on fear rather than faith. You begin to lose sight of what you were once passionate about. And before you know it, you're living a life that looks nothing like the one you once dreamed of, one made up of low-risk choices and high levels of quiet regret. People believe that playing it safe protects them, but in reality, it robs them. It steals time. It steals energy. It steals opportunity. Most importantly, it steals potential. The danger of the comfort zone is that it tricks you into believing you have more time than you do. You think you can pause your pursuit and pick it back up whenever you're ready. But momentum doesn't work like that. Purpose doesn't wait around. And while you're lingering in hesitation, doors are closing, windows are narrowing. Helps us. And the life you were meant to live is being exchanged for the life you were willing to settle for. It happens gradually, so subtly that you barely notice the shift until one day you wake up and realize you've stopped growing. No one escapes this truth. Growth demands discomfort. It's not personal. It's a universal principle. You don't build strength by staying relaxed. You don't develop courage by avoiding risk. And you don't walk into purpose by clinging to comfort. If you want to experience more, you have to become more. That transformation doesn't come from wishing. It comes from working. It comes from leaning into resistance, embracing inconvenience, and being willing to feel the stretch. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's your evidence. It's proof that you're moving. And every time you choose to stay in the heat a little longer, you're being refined, not destroyed. Most people are waiting for fear to disappear before they act. But fear doesn't vanish. Fear gets weaker in motion. Fear loses its grip when you stop obeying it. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move anyway. And every step you take outside of your comfort zone sends a message to your mind, to your spirit, to your futuring. I'm not staying where I am. With each uncomfortable decision, your identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, someone who acts, even when it's hard, someone who honors the calling more than the craving for ease. The comfort zone has one job to keep you the same. It's consistent, reliable, and quiet. It doesn't argue. It doesn't pressure. It just waits for you to settle, and many do, because settling feels like peace at first. It's only later that the unrest begins. It's only when you see someone else breaking barriers you never dared to pursue that the discomfort of missed opportunity begins to sting. You can pretend it doesn't bother you. You can mask it with distractions. But your spirit knows. It knows when you've stopped climbing. It knows when you're living beneath your capacity. And it won't let you forget that inner voice that keeps whispering, there's more. That's not your imagination. That's your potential calling out. That's the part of you that refuses to be silenced by routine. You can try to numb it, ignore it, dismiss it, but it will keep speaking because you were never meant to plateau. You were meant to progress. You were built for impact. That stirring inside of you isn't anxiety. It's alignment trying to wake you up. It's reminding you that you're capable of more, and it's daring you to leave behind the verse self that only knew how to survive and step into the version of you that's ready to thrive. Leaving your comfort zone will never be convenient. There will always be a reason to wait. There will always be something else to finish, someone else to consult, or some excuse that sounds good enough to delay your destiny. But that's how the comfort zone works. It makes procrastination look like wisdom. It makes stagnation feel like strategy. But it's not. It's just fear in disguise. And every time you obey that fear, you're choosing to stay exactly where you are, hoping something changes, while refusing to change anything yourself. You won't always see immediate results. Sacrifice doesn't always come with quick rewards. Sometimes it feels like silence. Sometimes it feels like isolation. Sometimes it feels like nothing's happening at all. In those moments, it's easy to question whether the effort is worth it, to wonder if you're wasting your time or energy. The world around you might keep moving forward with visible progress, but your journey can feel stuck in place. That's the nature of sacrifice. It tests your patience and your faith. It asks you to trust in what is unseen, to believe in the process even when the proof isn't obvious. This waiting period is where many give up, but it's also where character is forged and resilience is built. There's a powerful lesson hidden in the silence of sacrificing. Growth happens beneath the surface long before it becomes visible above it. And just like roots spread deep underground before a tree bursts through the soil, your efforts are creating a foundation you can't yet see. Each moment, you resist the urge to quit. Each time you push through discouragement or boredom, you are building strength that will support your breakthrough. The discomfort you feel in these quiet seasons isn't meaningless. It's the preparation stage for something greater. The challenge is learning to embrace this process and keep going even when the results seem delayed or uncertain. Isolation is another side effect of true sacrifice. When you decide to pursue something meaningful, not everyone will understand or support you. Some people will question your choices. Others may feel threatened by your growth. And some may simply be indifferent. This can leave you feeling alone, like you're carrying a burden by yourself. But isolation doesn't mean abandonment. It often means you're on a different path, one less traveled and harder to walk, as it helps us. It means you're stepping away from the crowd to carve out your own destiny. This solitude can be uncomfortable, but it can also be empowering, forcing you to rely on your own inner strength and conviction. When immediate validation is absent, doubt can creep in quickly. It's normal to wonder if you're on the right track, if your sacrifices will actually pay off, or if you should just give up and settle for something easier. The key is to recognize that doubt is part of the process, not a signal to quit. Many successful people have walked through periods of intense uncertainty and still kept moving forward. They understood that persistence is often the difference between failure and breakthrough. Doubt challenges your faith and your focus, but it can't stop you unless you let it. Choosing to keep going in spite of doubt is where true courage lies. Sacrifice also means learning to delay gratification. In a world built on instant results and quick fixes, this is perhaps the greatest challenge. You might have to say no to short-term pleasures, late nights out, mindless scrolling, or easy distractions in order to say yes to long-term success. This delay isn't deprivation, it's investment. It's planting seeds today so you can harvest tomorrow. This kind of patience sharpens your discipline and stretches your self-control, which are critical for sustaining progress. The ability to stay focused on a distant goal, resisting the temptation of immediate rewards, sets apart those who succeed from those who settle. Sometimes it can feel like the sacrifices are too great, as it helps us. You might question whether the cost is worth the gain or feel overwhelmed by what you've had to give up. This is where mindset becomes crucial. Viewing sacrifice as loss will weigh you down, but seeing it as exchange, trading what no longer serves you for what will elevate you, creates freedom and hope. It shifts your perspective from scarcity to abundance. You start to recognize that every step back is setting you up for a leap forward. This mindset keeps you motivated during the toughest stretches and helps you maintain clarity about your purpose. Another important aspect of sacrifice is the unseen impact it has beyond yourself. Your sacrifices don't just affect you. They ripple out into your family, your community, and even future generations. When you commit to growth and breakthrough, you create a legacy that goes beyond personal gain. The discipline you cultivate, the example you set, and the opportunities you create become gifts to those around you. This awareness can give your sacrifice deeper meaning and fuel your perseverance as it helps us. You're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing it for everyone who believes in you and everyone who will benefit from your success. Finally, the long journey of sacrifice often reveals about your own character and potential that you couldn't see before. It teaches you about resilience, about what you're truly made of, and about the depth of your own faith and determination. It forces you to confront fear, doubt, and weakness, and in the process, it awakens strength, clarity, and confidence. Sacrifice strips away illusions and distractions, leaving only the essential parts of who you are and who you're becoming. This process is transformative, not just because of what you achieve, but because of who you become along the way.